Okay, well, I'm in a storytelling mood, so I'm going to tell another story. And this one is about a fellow by the name of Freeman Earl. Now, I know Freeman Earl is kind of a funny name, and you'd think it'd be Earl Freeman, but no, his name was the reverse. It was Freeman Earl. And he was our neighbor when I was a kid. He was a neighbor down the road from us. He had a dairy farm, at least for a while. The milk marketing board actually took his dairy quota away from him. There's Rocky, because he kept his barn and his animals really dirty, and they were getting contaminated milk. And the thing is, when the truck would come, if you get contaminated milk in there, it contaminates all the milk. Then so it's just a waste. And he wasn't maintaining proper hygiene anyway, so they took his quota away from him. Basically, put him out of the milk business. My old friend Gord, the farmer, had some dealings with him. Gord lived further up the road. And I remember Gord told me one time he'd come down there to look at some calves that Freeman had for sale. And he said the stink in the barn was so bad he couldn't stand it. He couldn't stay in there. It just. Overwhelmed him, the smell. Anyway, around 1975, I guess it was, I was about 7 years old. My dad decided to put our place up for sale. Now, we had a mobile home and a mobile home park. Um, we owned the mobile home, or my dad owned it anyway. But we didn't own the lot it was parked on. We paid rent on the lot it was parked on. In fact, it used to be my job to take the rent money over to the landlord. My mom would give me an envelope with a $20 bill in it, and that was the rent for the lot that our mobile home was on. And I'd take that over to the landlord, and my mom would always tell me, now make sure you get a receipt. Don't come back here without a receipt. And so I get a receipt, and I bring the receipt back. And I did that from when I was about 5 years old for the whole time we were there until I was about like 12 when we left. Every month I'd bring that $20 bill over. Anyway, that included the lot the trailer was parked on, and the mobile home, and also water and sewer were included. Water and septic were included in that. We paid electricity separate from that. But anyway, here's the story about Freeman Earl. My dad, at first, he put our mobile home up for sale with a realtor, and but she lied. She lied to my dad about. I told my dad a terrible lie, and so my dad fired her, and he put it up. He just decided to sell it privately, and he was so mad at her for what she did that he just didn't want to hire another realtor. It soured him on realtors. What she had done, the realtor that he hired actually, is there was a family coming to look at it, to look at our mobile home, and just before, about half an hour before they were supposed to come and look at it, she called my dad up, and she told my dad that there had been a terrible tragedy, that there had been a car accident, and several members of that family had been killed in this car accident. And so, of course, they were grieving, and therefore wouldn't be coming to look at our mobile home. Well, of course, my dad understood. He wasn't mad about that at all. But the next day, he was talking to another man at work, and he told him the story. He was saying how terrible it is, that this family had this had happened to this family. And the guy says that's not true. That didn't happen, because that guy had his place for sale too. And he said she actually brought that family out to look at my place yesterday. So no, there was no car accident. Nobody was killed. That was a lie. She told you a lie. And so my dad fired her, and he put it up for sale privately. Anyway, I guess there must have been more money potentially selling the other guy's place or something. I really don't know. But for whatever reason, she decided to lie to my dad, and it was a terrible lie. And my dad was so disgusted with her that he just fired her and put it up on as a private sale. Anyway, Freeman Earl, our neighbor, he wanted to come and look at it. So he come up and he went through it and he looked it over real good and everything, and he made my dad an offer. But it was a low ball offer. And my dad turned it down. He said, no, I can't sell it for that. And Freeman Earl got arguing with my dad, and my dad said, well, it's like this. If I sold it to you for that, then I'd take a huge loss on it, and we'd be leaving here and I'd still owe the bank for the place. So I'd still be in debt for the place if I did that. I'd be cutting my own throat if I sold it to you for that. Well, Freeman didn't like that, and he got up in my dad's face, and he called my dad. He just ranted and raved and called my dad just about every filthy name you could call a person, If it's a dirty name you could call somebody, Freeman Earl probably called my dad that day. They were standing in the middle of our kitchen. And I remember my dad was perfectly quiet, and he was giving Freeman a hard look. And my dad wasn't somebody to mess around with. I'd seen him in fights before. And I also knew that look, and I knew that violence generally followed that look, the look he was giving Freeman. And so I was expecting violence to happen, and I was frightened. I wasn't frightened for myself because it wasn't me that was going to take a beating that day. I mean, I had taken beatings, but I wasn't going to take one that day. But even to see my dad beat somebody up frightened me because it wouldn't be the first time I'd seen it. And it was, my dad to get out of the car. He would. If he got into a dispute with another man driving, he'd get out of the car and he'd fight the guy in the street. This is the sort of thing that would happen, and I remember seeing stuff like that when I was a kid, So, I mean, and my dad didn't lose fights. He'd win, too. He'd win. And he wasn't a big man, my dad, really, but he was tough, and he knew how to fight, and he was strong as an ox. Not somebody to fool around. He had a terrible temper. Not somebody to fool around with. Anyway, he's giving Freeman Earl this hard look, and I'm standing there in the doorway to the kitchen. I was like 7 years old, and I'm standing there, and I'm thinking, this is going to be bad. Like, I don't want to see this. But it was almost like looking at a car wreck. You can't turn away. You don't want to see it, but you can't turn away. You have to look. That's what it was. Anyway, Freeman unleashed on my dad anyway, just really verbally eviscerated him. And when he was finished, and to my dad's credit, I'm surprised my dad showed this much self-control. If he had been drinking, it would have been different, I'm sure, but he was sober that day, so there was that too. But it was actually pretty impressive that my dad had as much self-control as he did, given what was going on. But when Freeman finished his tirade, my dad just looked at him and he says, he was giving him a hard look, He says, are you done? And Freeman didn't say anything, he just looking back at my dad. My dad says, I guess it's time for you to leave. Would you like to leave under your own power, or will you be needing help? Just like that. And when he said that, Freeman just says, oh, you, and out he went. Anyway, he went out to the car. He didn't say another word after that. Oh, you effing whatever, and out to the car he went, and he left. And, yeah, I remember that. Anyway, that farm where that Freeman had, it's now owned by friends of mine, and they have chickens there and stuff, and I've actually looked after the chickens for them when they've been away, and so on. When they haven't been able to, I've gone in the evening and fed them and watered them and made sure they were locked in the coop for the night and all that, locked in the chicken area of the barn. It's not really a coop. It's actually the old it's the old milk house portion of the barn where the chickens are kept. And there is an outside coop on top of that now too, but I always had an uneasy feeling in that barn. And there was one time I took some pictures with my cell phone in the chicken coop, in the chicken part of the barn. I actually took some pictures of the chickens roosting and whatnot. And when I looked at the pictures, you could actually see the ghost of Freeman Earl. He's in the pictures. I wish I could show that here. If I can figure out a way to do it, I will. Maybe with my other phone, if it'll show up. I could bring the pictures up and you can see him. But you can actually see Freeman Earl, and it looks just like him, too. Like the way he looked, that's how he looked, And I can actually see Freeman Earl in there with the chickens in the picture. Just he's transparent. You can see through him, but he's there. And not only that, but here's another ironic thing. The way Freeman Earl passed away is he choked to death on a chicken bone. He was eating Kentucky Fried Chicken, and a chicken bone got lodged in his throat, and that's what killed him. So now he's in with the chickens anyway. His ghost is living with the chickens, And it was a chicken that killed him. So there you go anyway. There's Freeman Earl. But, he was known to be quite cheap and quite miserable. Just not a very nice man. And there were a lot of people like that back then, actually. That wasn't uncommon. Not everybody was nice, And what I found is it tended to be extremes. Either a person was really nice and decent, or they were a real nasty piece of work, and there wasn't a lot of in-between in the old days. And if it was tended to be one extreme to the other anyway. And Freeman Earl was an extreme, I'll tell you. He was not a nice man. But anyway, he's gone now, so maybe I shouldn't speak ill of the dead anyway, but he is gone now. But it seems that his spirit lives on in the chicken coop. I'm going to try and get those pictures up on my phone, and I'll see if it'll work with the other phone. And if it will work, then I'll show you the pictures from the chicken coop. And if it'll work, you'll see Freeman Earl in the pictures anyway. You'll see his ghost. That's it for now. I hope you're all having a wonderful day so far. And wherever you are and wherever you're at in it and whatever you're doing. We cover a lot of time zones with this interwebs thing. And that's it. And Rocky and I will see you later. Rocky shifted around. He's having a sleep. We're on day 1 with the new propane tank. The last one lasted 15 days plus this morning. This is the 16th day. I had it on for an hour or so this morning before it ran out. That never happens, but it happened with that one tank. Anyway, I'm thinking I'm going to go into town today. That's my plan. And it's good that I didn't go yesterday then, because I'll be able to bring the spent tank in with me. I'll be able to put the used up tank in the wheelbarrow and take it into town and exchange it while I'm in town for a full one. All right, that's it for now. We'll talk to you later.